Hi everyone, Omid from CodeLab here, and welcome back to the second video in our API series. This one will be on how to use Axios to programmatically call APIs. So again, in the last one, we learned about Insomnia, how to do it from that interface just to test APIs, but if we need to call an API from our program, well, that would be pretty hard. So we use a library called Axios. Now here on npmjs.com again, you guys might have seen this one in the JavaScript video. Here we are currently looking at the page for a library or a package called Axios. Now you'll see probably first thing that you notice, this thing's got like just shy of 18 million weekly downloads. So compared to that Math.js one, which had just shy of like 400K, obviously Axios is pretty big. It is like pretty much considered to be the standard way of making API calls, both in industry and in people's personal projects. We actually use this at my internship last summer to make API calls in TypeScript, so pretty similar to JavaScript right there. And they also have very lengthy documentation, so it's really great because making API calls, it's tough. There's a lot of customization that certain people want to do, so they have extensive documentation here, as well as over on their GitHub repository link right here. But if you want to install that, I'm going to do a quick little tutorial on how to use it right here. So Npm Install Axios, as you all saw. I'm not going to type this out since it's just a few lines and you can kind of see right here. Feel free though to follow along and mess around with your own links, but I'm going to personally be using the exact same link that we just used with Insomnia to make a request. So again, npm install Axios, you should get that node modules folder, you should get the package log.json, and you should get the package.json. Again, if you do not have the type module, sometimes that does not automatically come when you generate the package.json file. You should put that in, or else your project will probably not run and you'll get some weird, like nasty looking error message. So please, again, install that right now. Okay. And now that you have got that, sorry about this. Let's head back to our APIs, to our app.js file right here. So this is just very simple. No brackets because we're actually just looking to import a variable called Axios. So we are just going to simply put import Axios from Axios. Pretty easy. That's how you always are going to import Axios. It's not really ever going to change. You just want the entire Axios variable. And then from that point, it's pretty straightforward. So if we do Axios dot, there's a ton of stuff on it. But the main stuff, you'll actually notice that there's like a get, a delete, a put, a post. Pretty much all of like the main requests that we need to make with APIs. And that's because that they are actually attached directly to the variable. So if we want to make a get request, it literally is just quite as simple as doing Axios dot get, and then we pass it the URL, and then it will do that request for us, and it will handle everything that Insomnia did. Now you might be wondering, okay, so why did we need to use Insomnia again? This looks pretty straightforward and simple. Because when you try to customize things, so when it comes to like passing parameters, whether it's by query or by like the URL itself, when you're trying to pass in like a body, when you're doing different types of requests that take in different request types and also give back different response types as well, things do start to get a bit iffy and a bit difficult. So that's why we still like to keep them separate. But for a very simple get request just like this, it's very easy and very straightforward. Now this dot then and dot catch, we will explain more in the next video what this syntax is, why it looks like this, because this is kind of weird. But basically all that you need to know is that this dot then function for right now is how we handle a successful API call being returned, and this dot catch is how we handle a bad API call being returned. So for us, if I actually navigate down into this directory right here, if I go into my APIs part 1 again, and you guys can also find this code available on GitHub if you would like to mess with it and run it yourselves, or you can also feel free to type it out yourselves. If I go into here and I just use node to run app.js, you'll actually notice that in my console I have the response being logged out, so I'm taking in the response whenever I have a successful call. Again, we can worry about the syntax in the next video. You'll notice that I actually get a ton of information back. This is all of that metadata and actually way more than Insomnia was showing us, so a ton of stuff that we like don't need. But at the very bottom, there is our actual response. So the same thing that Insomnia showed us, if I'm going to pull that back up, those 6 lines, those exact same lines are right here underneath this data field. So we got a huge object back with a ton of stuff. One of those fields, data, had another JSON object nested underneath it, which contained all of the data that we need. So again, that's why people love Axios. This was fairly simple and straightforward. Of course, it will get a bit more complicated than just using Insomnia as we do sort of ramp up the complexity of our calls, but very straightforward, very simple. And if and error was to happen for some reason making this call, that error would then also log itself out. So again, very simple, straightforward. Hopefully you all found this video interesting, and I will catch you all in the next one. Thank you.